Okay, so let's wrap this up because we got to get going, and I actually need to set up at the anime swap meet. If anybody wants to buy some DVDs or manga for $5 or $10, feel free to stop on by the swap meet later. I'm sure there'll be other people besides me selling, but buy from me first. Anybody want to tell everyone real quick about Rin-ay? Who's been reading that?
Wait, what?
Rin-ay, the latest Rumiko Takahashi?
There's a new?
Yes.
Did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I think it's the one that's about, it's like a supernatural, and there's a girl who gets involved with this guy who like does exorcism or something. And I do remember one part where she ends up getting into like the afterlife, and he goes after her to get her.
Yeah, I've actually read a fair amount of this particular series. So since it seems a lot of you haven't seen it yet, would it be okay if I just told everybody what I've read of it?
Sure.
All right, so as I mentioned at the beginning of this panel, it's currently available. 2 printed books have actually been released in America. So if you can, visit your local library, and if they don't have a copy, tell them to get one in. I'd say go out and buy a copy, but if you get the library to buy it, you don't have to spend money. Everybody else gets to read it, and the more people reading it, the more people asking for it, and they'll get all the copies in there. So it works out pretty well. Or if you're impatient, just go and buy it. We have a convenient bookstores here in the Layton area. Anyways, however, Viz has been releasing Rin-ay in English on a weekly basis. It's being printed in a weekly manga anthology in Japan. And they've been trying to cut down on scanlations, which are fan-translated manga, by releasing really quickly afterwards and making it available for free to read in English. So if anybody wants to write down the URL for that or just search for it on Google, it's called Shonen Sunday. And you can go ahead and read it for free. I think it's just shonensunday.com. But sometimes they spell shonen with a U like it should be, and sometimes just with an O. So just search for Shonen Sunday, and then you won't get the wrong website. But yeah, so they're releasing that free every week. And the basic premise is you can think of this series as Inuyasha Light. I think of it like almost a sequel series. Like she's like, you know, I did all this stuff about demons and souls and spirits and the afterlife and all this, but I just didn't get enough after 15 years of, I mean, how long was Inuyasha? 10 years in manga form? Over 30 volumes? It was crazy. So she's like, you know, I just need to do some more. So Rin-ay is basically, I guess I'll start from the beginning. There's this this main character, I think her name's Mamiya, and Sakura Mamiya, I believe is her name. And when she was a little girl, she ended up getting lost near her grandmother's house, and she has a unique ability to go and see supernatural things. And she saw this creature that wasn't of this world, and he basically said, hey, you know, follow me, I'll show you this cool place. And so she does, and she ends up in the afterlife, essentially. If any of you have seen Bleach, it's kind of like the halfway point between life and death. Something like that. Anyways, she ends up following him there, and there's this whole village of well, you can't call them people, but essentially there's these Shinigami there, these soul reapers, if you will, and their responsibility is to go and guide people to the afterlife so they can go into the wheel of reincarnation, which looks like a giant wheel in the sky. Anyways, Sakura ends up going here, and the main character, Rin-ay, his grandmother finds her, and she's like, oh, hey, you know, back off, you, leave this girl alone. And she takes the girl in, and she's like, yeah, you know, we need to go and get you back to the world of the living because you're not supposed to be here yet. And so she goes and she takes her back. But unfortunately, Sakura had gone and eaten food from this netherworld, if you will, and so now she.
Persephone?
What's that? Oh yeah, Persephone. Right.
Good.
Anyways, now she can go and see the spirits, even though she was supposed to grow out of them, because as Rin-ay's grandmother explained it, little kids can sometimes see supernatural things, but as they grow older, it stops. Sakura had eaten this food though, so she still can even in her teenage years. And all of a sudden, yes, here comes the device used in a million anime, an exchange student shows up at her school, this mysterious new boy. And his name is Rin-ay. And it turns out that Rin-ay is not a normal boy, and he's surprised when Sakura can go and see him conversing with a spirit. And from here, essentially, she starts working alongside him and becomes his Kagome as they go about and help spirits move on to the next world.
You mean his Rukia?
Yeah. Well, unlike in Inuyasha, though, where Inuyasha is just going around cutting things to ribbons, in this series, the main character Rin-ay actually has a job to do. He has to get the spirits to let go of the things that are keeping them here on this world so they can move beyond into the netherworld and into the wheel of reincarnation. And so he has to basically find poltergeists and ghosts and other people with attachments to this world who don't move on because they've just got so wrapped up into something that they can't. And so the two of them start working together, and Rin-ay is incredibly poor. And so when he sees people spending money, he thinks that they're being like incredibly generous and just loose with their money. And so if somebody pays like $5 for lunch, he's like, oh my God, you pay $5 for lunch? That would make me 50 meals of rice because I'd buy it at 10 cents each. And so he's extremely poor, but he's supposed to be doing this job as a shikigami, helping these souls move on. And so eventually there's a school weather hutch that's supposed to be cursed. And using his, essentially his shikigami cloak of invisibility, he goes and he puts a letter in there, a mysterious letter that nobody knows where it came from. And it says, if you have any, spiritual troubles or whatever, leave your problem written down in this box, along with a contribution of money or food. And so he goes and he starts solving people's problem that way. And Sakura gets mad at him for doing this, and he's like, please forgive me, I had no other choice in this matter, I'm very poor. And she's like, okay, and eventually she finds out he's actually living in one of the abandoned buildings on the school's campus, so he can't even afford a place to live. And eventually other characters start showing up. There's this character that reminds me of Kodachi from Ramna. It's like she has this great big staff thing, and she's really girly, and she's trying to get Rin-ay to fall in love with her, but he doesn't want to. And then there's another guy who you could think of as the newest Ryoga, who essentially declares himself to be a rival of Rin-ay, and he's like dressed in a tuxedo all the time, I think. Anyways, and so it's just like most Takahashi things, a lot of stuff gets recycled in a new way, and a lot of familiar character types and such show up, but all in all, it's a pretty fun show. In my opinion, I don't like it as much as Inuyasha, but it's not like so, what's the term for it?
Noxious?
Not dramatic or traumatic, it's, where everybody's all serious and emotional. What do they call that?
Lighthearted.
Serious?
Yeah, it's a much more lighthearted
There we
series
go.
with Rin-ay. It's much more comedic orientated, and I mean there's still lovey-dovey stuff in there, but it's instead of being like an action adventure with a lot of like macabre things like people dying, or like Kohaku in Inuyasha is only kept alive by a Shikan jewel, so what do they do if they rescue him? Do they pull it out and let him die? There's nothing like that in Rin-ay. It's all pretty lighthearted and friendly. And it's a pretty good show, right? They haven't animated yet, but it's a good read. And if you're impatient to read books and buy them, I'm sure just like everything else she's made, it will eventually be animated. They're probably just going, let's wait a while, let her get a few books out, and then we don't need quite as much filler. But I'm sure they'll animate that sooner rather than later. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much all I really had to say about that series. There's a lot of funny moments to it, including Rin-ay's grandmother insisting she's not old and hitting people when they call her old. That is a bit funny, although overdone. So anyways, I guess, does anybody have any questions about this series? Anyone? All right. Well, can anyone tell me what time it is?
10 after.
10 after.
10 after? Is there anything else you guys like to discuss before we call it wraps? You know, they said, oh, 5 minutes left, but there's nothing scheduled, so we can take as long as we want.
Most attractive character.
Do you know all the do you know the series names? Kind of.
Oh, sure. Yeah, if anybody wants to write down the names of these series so they can check them out at like their library or online or whatever, go ahead and feel free to write those down right now. Did you have something to say
There's
first?
one we forgot. 1 Pound Gospel.
Oh! Yes.
That's a very good one. One of the few
I haven't
that
even read
aren't, you know, I don't remember. Did they animate anything?
Yes, they did.
All right, we'll get to that in a second. But real quick, for those writing it down and wanting to check this stuff out later, Inuyasha, but we've mentioned that one to death. There's Ramna 1/2. There's Rin-ay, that's spelled R-I-N-N-E. Maizuni Koku, spelled M-A-I-S-O-N. French word, actually. And then the second part is Ikoku, spelled I-K-K-O-K-U. Anyone else want to throw out a few more for her to write down? 1 Pound Gospel, that was already mentioned. That's one of the short ones, so you should really check that out.
Rumic Theater and Rumic World.
Yeah, Rumic Theater and Rumic World.
Yeah, I just like to mention one of my. I just love the art she does of it. You know, one of the stories in Rumic Theater, I think it is about this this old this wedding hall that just
That you know, that could have been its own series.
yeah, this barely hangs on, and it's. And this guy comes
There's
in.
also another one called Mermaid Scar. That one's
Yeah,
a lot
Mermaid
more
Scar.
horror. That's the word I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Well, horror's not quite right. Thriller, maybe?
Yeah.
Kind of supernatural kind of stuff.
Almost
And then there's
Highlander-ish.
another one
You're not
called
happy.
Mermaid's Tear, is it? Mermaid's Tear?
Yeah. Well, Mermaid Saga and Mermaid's Tear.
Yeah.
There's
so-
3 books, as far as I know.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about 1 Pound Gospel since you brought that up. Go ahead and tell everybody a little about the nun and the boxer.
I don't know anything about it. I just know that it exists.
Okay.
I am
Well, you know a
pathetic.
good deal about it up front here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, it's about this boxer. He's just this, you know, he's usually kind of a glutton. I mean, it really ticks his trainer off. He would just, you know, gorge himself like before and fill his stomach before a match or something like that. And in the meantime, there's this nun. He usually goes in for moral support, and of course he's the guy's not too bright because he does not know that somehow doesn't know a nun has to be celibate, and so he kind of hits on her. In fact, one time he goes to the pool and he sees this beautiful girl, and then he finds out that's her without her Cossack. So, and but yeah, it's just kind of cute and fun.
How many books is it for 1 Pound?
I'm not sure, like 3 or less than 10. I know
I
that.
think it's 4.
Yeah, it's
But,
one of the very few animes or mangas that ever tackles Christianity. You know, I know about that.
That's true. Usually
Yeah.
Christianity is like in what's that called with the vampire and that chick
Yeah,
that's always wearing
Randy Blood like that or something.
What's that called? God, Hellsing. Yeah.
Hellsing, yeah, too.
Generally, that's like what the Japanese show of Christianity is, Hellsing. And I couldn't figure out why that chick wears that blue outfit the whole time, even after she joins the other group, and it gets torn and bloodied and
Chrono Crusade.
all that is crazy times. Or Chrono Crusade. There's
Yeah.
another example of how the Japanese think Christianity works. What's that?
Yeah, but
But yeah, 1 Pound Gospel, that is one of the few things of hers that I haven't seen, and actually I really should get on the ball on that one. Anybody else with any other things they want to say about different series, or maybe just if everybody's done talking about different shows, we could talk about some of our favorite moments from over the years. Sure.
oh, this is one series, and this is one of the few anime adaptations that they just totally screwed over. Was the three-legged race? Because like one deal they actually one deal they did in some anyways, but for some reason, like in the anime, Ranma shows up and finds his head he closed, figures, oh, it's just part of the deal. I got to put these things on. They totally messed up the setup. I usually don't care for nudity, but this scene was just totally hilarious. all three of the, let's see, Ryoga, Ranma, Moose, Shampoo are in some hot tub on the side of a rock, or Ukyo, Akane, and Shampoo. And in the manga, if the animals change into a their animal, they lose their clothes. And so at this point, the three guys are fighting over Rama's clothes because he only stays human. But the other girls know they're on their side, and I just love this scene. Shampoo just jumps to the other side, Ranma! And Ryoga, eyes just bug out seeing her and totally in the buff, and he has his nosebleeds and faints. Moose regrets he didn't have his glasses, so he couldn't see her clearly. And anyways, they all get sucked in down a whirlpool. And then Rama finds the clothes, and because they're the only clothes around, he puts on these clothes filled with weights and all, and then things continue from there.
That is a pretty good. That is a pretty good scene. Ramna is definitely not for those who don't like nudity by a man who turns into a woman. Although it's generally pretty much not much to worry about.
But it's just Testa, there's nothing. It's nothing really bad. So.
Anyone else with a favorite moment from any of those various series? Maybe you?
I don't know what series you guys have been talking about. I jumped in real late.
We're talking about anything by Rumiko Takahashi, Ramna, Inuyasha, anything like that. How about over here on this side? Let's go and get some voices from over here. Anybody with a favorite moment from Rumiko Takahashi stuff?
Are they paying attention?
Well, pretty much I can't think of a lot left to say at this point. Like I said before, Rin-ay is available online to read for free. They've printed 2 books of that. They'll undoubtedly eventually animate it. For those who haven't seen Inuyasha, the final act, that's also still available online for free. If you like dubs, you just have to basically wait. But other than that, they've got it subtitled for free online.
So is that they're finally finishing Inuyasha?
Yes.
The final season, is that final act?
Finished.
Yes.
How many volumes?
And
was
closer.
Inuyasha was over 30 volumes.
it? So was Ranma.
Yeah, and I think Inuyasha was a lot longer than Ramna though. But yeah, they finished Inuyasha. They animated the last story arc, and they called it Inuyasha: The Final Act in English, and that's also available from the Shonen Sunday website, free to watch. It's actually they used to do their own thing with the streaming, but now they just do it through Hulu, so you can go to hulu.com and see it there as well.
Because I remember with Inuyasha, they just sort of stopped it cold. Like, we haven't found the Rocky, we haven't fixed the jewel. I'm still going back and forth between the 2 worlds.
Yeah.
And then that's it. We stopped making it.
Yeah, even if you watch the 4 movies, they don't do anything. Those are really all side stories. Although I did like, I think it was the 3rd movie where they thought they killed off Naraku, and it showed what they would do afterwards if such a thing happened. And that was kind of neat to see just for that. Although one of those movies had really weird or almost bad art. I don't remember which one though.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to buy the 4th movie, I'll be selling that in the anime swap meet here at 9 o'clock.
Where is that?
Anime swap where you swap, not sell.
No, at the swap meet you're allowed to buy, sell, or trade. So anyone can bring whatever they want to sell, trade, do doodles, whatever. But yeah, I'll have some stuff there. It's stuff I'm getting rid of, so it's not all good stuff. But yeah, they, yeah.
Well, one thing I was wondering was, I'm surprised no one mentioned the scene where the main character can't pronounce the name of the series. It was Rumiko Takahashi's first series, the one with Mom.
Satsuru.
Yeah. I'm just surprised no one mentioned the whole reason why the main character had to get married to love that.
We did.
So that was a really interesting.
Didn't he like play tag with her and he had to get her horns?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the way he did it.
Yeah, didn't he like take off her bikini tops and she got distracted and then stole her horns? Yeah, I remember that.
So yeah, that is a pretty funny series. I guess if you've never seen Urusei Yatsura, think of it as Japanese Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives you on the money for what you're getting into. But yes, on the Shonen Sunday website, you can get Rin-ay, you can get Inuyasha the Final Act, but you can also see all of the original Inuyasha series. So if you ever miss some stuff, there's some gaps in there, you can check that out and see all that too.
But it does have its sweet moments in your Yatsuzura. I mean.
That's true. It's not all.
In fact, I'll just say one of my sweet moments. Not giving too much away. It was these guys figured they'll play a joke on the Letch, forget his name, but they'll fabricate this secret admirer, and along the line, one feels sorry for her, so she goes fixes her hair like she's like a Chinese girl, and says oh yeah, I'm the girl, and at that hour or two, he actually feels a little bit attracted to her.
So yeah, pretty much. If you want to see Inuyasha the Final Act, keep in mind it's still subtitled and online. But I do know for a fact that the voice actor of Songo posted on Twitter that she had already been to dubbing sessions for Inuyasha the Final Act. So that's almost a guarantee that it's going to be on Cartoon Network at some
Are they
point.
keeping all the original voice actors?
I would say yes.
From what I have heard, yes. And don't worry, they also kept all the original music too.
Yeah.
The only thing really changed is the opening and closing, and those are really, really good.
In fact, I don't know if I probably mentioned it, but yeah, Richard Cox did mention that in Decay that it's not too much of a coincidence that he got to, like his Japanese counterpart, dub both of them. So he likely will be rehired. So
yeah, there was a funny, a special that they made to celebrate all these years of Rumiko Takahashi's work, and they brought in all these characters from all these different series, so like Ramna. And
oh yeah,
Inuyasha,
I remember that.
And they were all in it, and there's this funny moment where Inuyasha meets Ramna, and he's like, "Your voice sounds just like mine," and it's funny because it is the same voice, same guy. So that was pretty.
Where do we
good
find
moment.
that?
What's that?
Where do we find that?
It was never officially released in America. It was just a limited, expensive thing to buy in Japan.
Is it on YouTube?
Eventually, people did go and they subtitled it. It's really short, so I'm sure you could find it somewhere.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess more or less look forward to seeing Inuyasha the Final Act on television and DVD, and Rin-ay will be in book form and eventually animated form. And I think that's more or less everything for the panel. Does anybody have anything else they want to say or mention before we go?
Again, it's like another. I mean, go for the anthologies because Rumic Theater has a lot of cute stuff. I really love this story about this old grandmother. She died. She reawakens with the psychic powers, and when she tells this nurse, because this romance she has with this mountain climber reminds her of this smite deal she had with this young man when she was young. And he says, "Oh yeah, you gotta marry him, or he's things horrible's gonna happen." And
that was really funny.
And I love the dog. Anyways, the guy didn't die at all. He says, "Oh no, I just fell off the cliff and I broke my leg on a lower ledge." She's
yeah, that Rumic was that World or Theater?
That was Theater, I think. I gotta go buy that.
Theater, and it's kind of funny because it's a series of short stories by Rumiko Takahashi. And so, if you want a taste of what she would do if she didn't go on forever, you can watch Rumic Theater and their little episodes. I think one of them may have been two-parter, but they're pretty self-contained. It's kind of hit or miss.
Laughing Target was a little scary though.
Some of them are really good. Like I really liked the reunion episode where the guy goes back to his high school reunion.
Yeah, Laughing Target was kind of scary.
Some of them aren't super great, but it's a good way of getting, if you will, a Rumiko sampler plate.
Yeah, sampler. Yeah. In fact, one of the deal is I forget what the title is, but essentially it's her first work, where this guy he gets abducted by two aliens and the government, and they have these bombs implanted in him, and everyone, you just got to make this delivery, and they find out there's going to be some chain reaction with all these bombs go at once. It's going to destroy the earth, and so they're all desperate to make him sure he gets this delivery okay.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody who showed up for our panel today, including those who had other panels they need to leave to go to. And so, once again, thanks to everybody for showing up. I'll try to do this again next year, and hopefully by then we have more people who have read and seen the newer stuff. And if you heard of anything you'd like to check out the older stuff too, and we'll all talk about it again next year. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the con.
Hey, one last question. I don't know if you know that or not. What stuff is Viz reprinting in left to right? I know they done Mace Hunter Kuku and Inuyasha, but they had not done Ranma to my knowledge.
From what I understand, they have gone and decided they're going to do that with everything.
Oh, good.
But the way that they're doing it is they're doing, they went to finish Inuyasha first in the way it started,
right.
so they did. Then they went back and did it the right to left way. And then they said more or less that they'll eventually do it with everything, but I don't think
That's
they
good.
announced the timetable for it. But
Okay.
it will happen.
So wait, okay.
As long as it's popular enough for them to keep in print, it'll be up for consideration.
Good.
If it's something that they stop printing altogether, then they won't.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah, all right.